Welcome to another episode of the Complete Performance Exercise Breakdown video series, where I take different exercises that you're using in the gym or in your training programs at home and show you how to perform them, where you should be feeling them, and how to put them into a training program so that you get the best results. Today, we're covering the quadruped hip extension. We're continuing the series in building a better butt, and we're going into an exercise that can be really big in building a better butt, but one that people undervalue and they don't look at as something to be of importance in their program. It's the quadruped hip extension. The quadruped hip extension has a couple different names. It may be a glute kick up, it may be a donkey kick to you, but let's first talk about where you're supposed to feel this muscle. Well, it's a part of the Better Butt series, which means you should feel it in your glute. You should feel it in your hamstring as well, and to some degree, depending on the tightness of your quad, the front of your thigh or your quad, and then your core. Let's talk about the setup. The setup with the quadruped hip extension, you're going to be in a quadruped position or all fours, hands right underneath the shoulders, hips are going to be right underneath the knees. When I set up, or when I tell clients to set up, I have them tuck their toes underneath because that's the position we're going to want their ankle to be in as they perform the motion. From here, I'm going to start with my left leg, which is my leg that's closest to you, and I'm going to drive the heel up and back toward the ceiling. Lower it back down, all the way to that start position. Now, every time I demonstrate this exercise, people say, that's it? So I just lift my leg up? Yes. And it's something that if you just kind of go about, you're really not going to feel the activation of the glute, which is going to take away from the effectiveness. So when you think about this, I want you to think that there's a brick or a board that you're trying to kick your way off of. You're going to drive that heel up. You don't have a lot of room up above you, so you have to keep those legs level. So you're going back with that heel and up to raise it up off of you. Simple. Yes. Easy? No. You have to actively think about squeezing your cheek, otherwise you're just going to be swinging that leg up and down. Now, here are a couple common mistakes that I see that you are going to want to avoid. One is it's not a leg extension. So we do want to keep that 90-degree bend in that leg to take out a good chunk of the hamstring. We want this to be a glute dominant movement because a lot of us are hamstring or quad dominant. So we want to keep this in that glute because we are trying to build a better butt, which means in order to correct that, you just have to be diligent in keeping that 90-degree angle at the knee. And the other thing to think about is squeezing that glute as you drive that leg up. Second thing that I see is a rotation of the hips. So as you come up, you try to rotate those hips further to raise that leg further. This is one of those exercises, and you're going to find this a lot in this Better Butt series. Bigger is not better. You want to keep this motion to your range of motion. You want to drive that heel up and allow that hip to extend as far as it can go, but no further. Any further, you're putting that low back at risk for injury, and you're incorporating other muscles that aren't your glutes. The last one that I see, and is better seen from a front view, is a lot of people like to, because their hip mobility is less than what it should be, they like to go out to the side. They struggle because their hip flexors are so tight because your job requires that you sit at a desk all day. You sit behind a computer screen. You sit behind the wheel of a car. So what you really want to do is you want to work your true range of motion, which means that you might not be able to fully extend that hip quite yet. But we have to build it. In order to achieve that range of motion, we have to build that. So back to the profile view, you have to think about driving that leg back, squeezing that glute, and going only as far as you're able to. We don't want to force any movement, and we don't want to go through any incorrect movement patterns. Because as you go through something like a squat and you're extending at that hip, we want to make sure that we have the musculature and the strength to do so. When you're going through a deadlift, same thing. You want to make sure that you have the strength to extend the hips. Now, where do put a quadruped hip extension in a program. A lot of times, I like this to be complementary to a squat or a deadlift. A hip extension type of movement it's lighter to complement it and can activate the muscles that we're going to be using. So oftentimes I use it as a warm-up exercise, but another way that I use it is as a high rep or a burnout set. We're gonna go high rep, really fire that glute, 25 plus reps, light it up, and then be done. Thanks for checking out this week's episode of the Complete Performance Exercise Breakdown video series. Check out future episodes in this Better Butt series, and stay tuned for future episodes not related to the butt, but are related for your programming.